All right, good morning, everybody. Sorry about the short delay. I was having some technological issues with my computer because it just did not want to cooperate today. A little weird, but whatever, it happens. Now we are back on track. Got the plan here, and we are going to do some more mapping. Now, for those of you who missed last week or who haven't caught up with that episode yet, the idea behind what I'm doing here is that I want to create a campaign setting that is appropriate for the average length of campaigns and um, functional usage at the table, as opposed to creating a traditional giant topographical map that is what a lot of people have come to expect from this sort of thing. And by that I mean, for a lot of games, what people will do is they will come into it and they'll be doing their world building. They'll be like, "Yeah, like I'm gonna build a world. It's gonna be awesome." And then they start building like this like Earth-sized planet. They've got like giant continents, and they're putting in all the mountain ranges, and it looks like a real-world topographical map. And a lot of the times, most of it's not going to get used. And something that I've noticed is that things that used to be normal, like wilderness encounters, travel, random encounters, all that sort of stuff, those are falling out of favor. They're just not as common as they used to be. And because they're not as common as they used to be, and that a lot of modern gaming tends to be more location and event focused, making that giant topographical map doesn't actually help you as game master or DM. If anything, it just puts a lot of extra pressure on you to create something, and then by the time you're done creating it, it's you're tired, you're burnt out, and you're sad because your players don't get the full experience of everything. So that's why I'm approaching this map the way that I am. I'm focusing on regions and locations at the expense of the distances between them. In fact, when this is done, distance is going to be measured in time. I'll simply say, oh, it takes 5 days to get from here to here, but it might take like 12 days to get over there, even though it doesn't make sense spatially, because space isn't important. We don't have to worry about it. So let's have some fun. So one of the things that I'm going to be adding today is an area up here, and we're going to throw a sunken empire in. And I've been thinking about how to do this, and I think I've got a good plan. So we're going to go here. I'm going to shrink this down. A little more. 25. There we go. Okay, we're going to go to background. And we're going to open the catalog, and we're going to find a nice sea color, like a darker sea color. Alright, so I like this one. And we're going to need that one. There we go. So putting this down here into the under layer is nice. It still gives me some space then if I want to add like maybe a little island or something like that, or add some high features. I don't have to compete against the larger sunken background. Oh yeah, Sunken Empire. How do I like the new stamp UI? I like it. I'm getting used to it. Um, I've been experimenting with making my own stamps on Canva and bringing them over, and it's just a bit of a learning curve, like anything else. Let's make this a little smaller. All right. Flip to the screen. I'm going to come up here. There's 25. Shrink it down a bit for some fine work. So the thing here is that just because this map isn't a traditional topographical map doesn't mean that you can't seed it with stuff that you're going to use later on to fuel your later campaigns or later ideas. So basically, by doing this sort of stuff, you're doing a little bit of future proofing and making sure that you've got options for once your initial campaign ends. If the players really liked it, you can always just come back to it and reuse it and do different stuff. And that's one of the reasons why after it's developed to a point where I like it, what we'll do is we're going to save and then clone this map, because that'll give us some capacity for future expansion, changes, all that sort of stuff. There we go. Nice. Okay. Let's go back to here. So that's good for there for now. Now we're going to come back down here to the desert. So I had a sweet idea. So years ago when I was a kid, I saw this great IMAX movie about the Grand Canyon. It was super cool. Oh, I definitely need to make that smaller. And it focused on like the rivers and stuff going through it. And so I was thinking about that the other day. And then, as you know, you sometimes do, I started thinking about Final Fantasy VI. And specifically, the part in the game where it's in the beginning and they're taking the rebel leader, Bannon, and they're escaping through like this whole river cavern area. And I thought, you know what? That's something that we don't have enough of in games. And so what I'm going to do is down here in this sort of mesa-filled area, where it was originally just all mesa, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a bunch of rivers in. And first I'm going to cut... Oh, wow, that needs definitely... There we go. I'm going to cut in a little lake. And then from there, we're going to start cutting through. Oh yeah, salt flats and stuff. Like, yeah, they're great features. There's so much going on in them, so much life. these are all connected up here. So now what we're going to do is just going to move some of these around just a little bit. There we go. So I know I'm playing around with the size a bit, but by playing around with the size a little bit and the position of things, I can show the river a little, these little rivers a little bit more easily. I don't want to tilt them. And then I come in with a brush. I believe that's that color. Yeah. So circle, let's increase that size. Wait, is it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Change that. So we have a natural conclusion there. There we go. So let's go back here to fit to screen. So now it's got a pretty cool looking area down here. I'm going to add a few more of those mesas though. Well, that's handy. I'm already on the mesa tool. Oh, it's a little too big. There we go. Yeah. Come over, pick out our palm trees. Which need to be 100 sized. Alright, I'm going to throw a few palm trees down. So now when we zoom out, we've got a pretty good looking area down there. Although I think I'm going to make that, let's clean this up a little bit more. Make that a little bit bigger. Let's go to add. Whoa, too much. This is Inkarnate. It is a browser-based mapping app. There is a free version and a paid version. The paid version is super reasonable. I think it's like $20 a year or something like that. And with the regular version, you get SD quality maps and most of the tools. With the paid version, you get HD quality maps. They go up to like something ridiculous, like 8K or something like that now, if you really want to export at that level. And a whole bunch of like extra little tools and stamp sets and stuff like that. And it could also scale. There's it does everything from battle mats to planet level, like whole worlds. The only downside to it is that it's right now it's only really good for fantasy stuff. They don't have a good science. They don't have a science fiction selection yet. Right. Let's see if there are any dunes. They do. I was just throwing some sand dunes for flavor. Desert area. This also helps break up the monotony of what was otherwise a fairly bland looking area. So you can even link them together. That to create a bit of a ripple effect. There we go. Alright, so zoom out. So now the desert area, at least until I start putting in the trails and settlements, I think it's pretty much sorted out now. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the jungle area and do a little bit more work on it and get a little bit more of a transition zone going on. Let's see where jungle trees. Those are swamps. Deciduous forest. And trees are being scaled at 100. So one of the big things with this particular mapping tool with our Inkarnate is that you definitely want to keep track of what scales you've got everything going in as. Otherwise your map will start to look really weird really quickly. Okay, so for example, these hills, I think I added them towards the end of last week's stream, and as you can see, they were like layered right on top of stuff, and so they were actually like obscuring trees, and we're over the grid, over the grid lines here, which is not good. So we're just going to move them down some layers. Get the trees appearing. See, it's already starting to create a... Wait, those are jungle trees. Move those up layers. There it is. So you definitely want to pay attention to where things are going in your layers. And here you can see all the objects that you've added to the map, or that I've added to the map. And moving stuff up and down layers definitely changes how things look. So like you can keep moving this down. See, now it's behind the mountain. So I want to bring it up. So it's there. I'm going to put in certain stamps on certain layers at all. We're just not worrying about it. Most of these are in the foreground layer. And it's just the way that the program orders things that gets a little bit messed up sometimes. So, like for example, if I were working with a GIS program, I would have much higher control over what layers where. I could actually like layer things up so that trees would be above hills, hills would be above mountains. Then I could have different types of mountains all set up, and it would show things in that order. But this program, everything happens in the foreground, and there is some precedence of order, but it's not reliable. So you end up with situations like this where I've got trees that are partially obscured by hills or mountains when they shouldn't be. Let's save. Okay, now what else can we add in here? Don't really have much else going on. And I think I'm going to add one river to this area. Subtract. And let's there we go. I don't like that. So we got one river. I'll make this lake a little bit bigger. And let's change the color of the water. Yeah, it's funny, in last week's stream, I completely forgot that pressing spacebar and dragging was an option. I was kicking myself all week after that. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta remember that next time. Alright, so now we're going to do some transition to, I believe that's deciduous, that's swamp, that's conifer, that's jungle. I'm pretty sure, yeah, these are the deciduous trees, but let's just confirm. Don't want to put all the wrong trees down. Jungle, swamp. Yep, just regular trees, okay. Drop them down to 100. So now we're working in, let's see what I've got here. Got a village is going to be going down here. Oh yeah, big forest up here. Okay. Yeah, so it's going to be forest all along there. So what I need now are the world trees. So this is going to be sized 200. Well, that doesn't look too bad. Let's take a look at the other ones. That looks even cooler. Damn. Okay, I think I know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to save this one for somewhere else on the map. But these ones, I got use for them. It's too bad they don't have variants of those. Yeah, world trees are a fantastic fantasy feature. And so to show like how cool the world trees are here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be using a handful of scaled up trees around them. So I'm going to start at 175. And I'm going to drop it down to 150. Okay, well, I'll shrink that one, that's fine. Now we'll shrink it down to 100. So down to the standard size. And to me, at least, what that does is that sort of emphasizes the importance and power of these locations. they're not just creating shade on the ground, but trees are actually growing bigger around them. And when you're building forests like this, you sort of have to be careful that you don't overcrowd things, because it's super easy to just like start spamming your mouse button and throw down a metric ton of trees. But it'll sort of also it'll have some adverse effects on the aesthetics of your map and how it looks. See, how big was this forest? Okay. Now let's start playing with the where stuff's at. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. You've made a lot of changes. Consider saving your work. Good call. Oh yeah, you could absolutely do that too. In fact, I like doing stuff like that when I'm working more on a hex map. Like plant. Just do a little example here. I go and say that's a forest area. That's a forested area. Um, yeah, it absolutely works, and is a super useful tool. And it all depends on like the style of map that you're looking to make and all that good stuff too. I'll throw down a few small forested areas. Put that transition area. This is by far and above one of the easiest mapping programs for games that I've used. Um, Super user friendly, um, and it makes stuff that looks nice. Yeah, the subscription aspect, it is a little less than ideal. But on the flip side of the coin, it's also they're free. Like it's unless you're planning on like doing some power user stuff or you really need that like HD quality, you don't have to do their subscription. Or if you want to use it like commercially, like if you wanted to like make maps and sell them or something like that. Um, for like your home games and stuff, like the standard definition set and capabilities, it's free and it works great. So throw a few hills around here. Get some more trees. There's a program called Wonderdraft. Um, that's very similar to this, and it's a standalone app for PC, and it does a lot of similar stuff. And it's like a one-time purchase, like it's like $25 or something like that, and then you can use everything that it comes with for whatever you want, like commercial, private use, all that sort of thing. And it's a very, very similar UI and very, very similar operations system. It's really nice. The only downside is that it doesn't have quite the selection of stamps, and so you may need to like either make your own or spend a couple of bucks on the stamps. It's got a pretty nice community going on that makes stuff for it. So seeing how you were talking about earlier, how you just like to put like 5 trees in a spot to represent a forest, that's a standalone forest. Um, so like even with the mapping style that I'm using, that still works, which is really handy because now if you're doing stuff down in this area, you've got the big main forest here, then you've got a bunch of little forests that you can sort of muck around in and make work. Bring this up a few layers. There we go. And that one's actually good. Nice. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Campaign Cartographer. I got it. It comes on sale fairly regularly these days on Humble Bundle, so you can get it and like literally save a bundle on it. Um, but it's definitely a more challenging. There we go. It's definitely a more challenging program to use because it's a CAD-based mapping program. So it's got a whole separate skill set associated to it. It's incredibly powerful and can do a lot of really great stuff. But the flip side of the coin is that there's a much higher learning curve and time investment into it. And for honestly, for people who aren't looking to become like professional, yeah, user friendly, it is not exactly. That's a huge problem in CAD and in GIS. Like my old job as a GIS tech, um, terrible um, user friendliness for a lot of these programs. But yeah, like unless you're planning on being a professional cartographer and like getting into like making fantasy maps and world maps on a professional level, I don't recommend campaign cartographer. Sorry, I don't recommend it unless you already have CAD skills. Because if you already have CAD skill baseline, then yeah, absolutely, like fly at it. You're gonna do great. But for the rest of us folks who aren't quite there yet, okay, so see here we go again. You see how this mountain is taking precedence over these trees and fading them out. So let's just deal with that right now. Now, Inkarnate has a fairly amazing community itself, and they've got a super active Discord and Reddit where people share their creations. And let me tell you, some of the stuff that people are doing with this program is absolutely mind boggling. We're talking like using the standard tools available. They're creating the sort of stuff in this program that I would expect to see, like people having to hand draw all the details. It's just, yeah, you lose a lot of time if you're like a fantasy map nerd and you want some inspiration for stuff. Yeah, hitting their Reddit or hitting their Discord, just there you go. So got all those where they need to be. All right, so I'm gonna hit that save button again before I zoom out and take a look at how the world is changing. And so what I'm doing is I'm also taking some snapshots of this so that I have a picture of the map from last week, and I'm going to take a picture of the map from this week, just sort of like to show how things are evolving and changing. So yeah, it's looking a lot more active, a lot more things going on. So yeah, that area down there looks really alive. I think I might add a few more palm trees. There we go. And bear in mind, this is all just literally all just the basics of stuff. Like, we aren't even going hard into what the program is, or like the details of the world or anything like that. Um, so, sorry here, I just got a little respond to a message here quickly. There we go. Um, yeah, and wow, time is flying by. It's already been 45 minutes. That's amazing. So yeah, we've got like a volcano, we've got a wasteland, which I think I'm gonna add some more detail to, and definitely move up there. I'm gonna have to move these trees up. So the big key with this app is consistency. Like, you want things to look good all the time. So it'd be easy just to let stuff like this sit and just be like, oh, it's close enough, it's fine. And like, truth be told, it probably is. But I want this map to look as good as it possibly can. There we go. See, just those minor corrections, with where things are appearing in the layer or in the order here over here, and just starts to it looks better. All right, back to planting trees. Have those go all the way up to the hills. I think I'm okay. Let's do a flip the screen and see how we're doing. Got over 100 changes. Hit that save button. Oh, I forgot to ask, can everybody hear me all right today? I know I'm talking a little bit low, but I moved the microphone so I wouldn't bump into it as much, so... Does that sound all right? Probably should have asked that back at the beginning of the stream before everything got going. Okay, good. I can be heard. Right on. So one of the things that we're also ignoring on this is pretty much normal trade, um, because there's like obviously there's going to be a lot of roots on here when I get to adding the roots, but we're sort of just going to be hand waving how they trade from like here over to here. So we're treating the map a little bit like Pac-Man. So you simply go off one side of the map and appear on the other. However, because distance doesn't matter, we can say, oh yeah, sure, you could do that, but that will take, 40 days sailing or whatever to get around to the other side, versus, it would take, to get, say I put a city here, it would take like 20 days to get there, or 10 to get there, something like that. It's one of those things where you start getting into the lack of spatial importance and get more into how much time does it take. Because when you're not really dealing with things like random encounters, it's not as important. Or counting rations or doing like any of that sort of stuff. The distance itself sort of becomes moot. It's more the time that becomes the pressure. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just go right up to the hills. The thing too is that with forests, it doesn't have to be a single uniform forest. You can have different parts of it with different levels of importance, danger, all that sort of stuff. Instead of treating it as a single ecosystem. Subtract, squiggle. Let's bump this up. And go to add. Color, catalog. There we go. Put a nice little lake in there, a little island. Do something with that island later. Pac-Man logic for the win. Yeah. Another thing that you can do is, say your players really like your world, but they want a new area or something like that, is you can create another map like this and just sort of start putting them together as little square-shaped continent units. Your map will look really weird, like to our eyes, being used to seeing like globes and stuff like topographical maps and things like that. But it'll be hyper functional for your game. Changes. Time to save. Alright, so let's zoom out to fit screen. Go to our stamp selection. I'm going to look up cave. Mine? That's it, eh? So I want to put something here to show there's an entrance. Like I can do that. Move it up a few layers. Flip the horizontal. Maybe put a few ice crystals around it. A few of these guys, shrink them down. 50. Smaller, 25. Well, it doesn't look too bad. That'll be something to work on next week, I think. Do some quality of life improvements up here. Down a few layers. There you go. Now I realize it may look a little bit fuzzy on screen, and that's fine, because when I actually do the export for this, it'll be vastly improved. It looks so much better in the export than it does when you're actually working on it. Sometimes it's just easier to move the trees up a few layers. This out a little bit. It's a little bit more of a seamless flow there then. Alright, so we're coming up on the end of the stream. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, if you still are. It's been a lot of fun today. Got a lot of good work done. So we've added these sunken continent areas. So a little bit of sunken empire action. Huge improvements in work done to the desert area. So we've got this sort of maze of rivers down here through the mesas, and we've added some sand dunes to help break up the monotony of the area. More palm trees, so it's a living desert, so it looks good. A little bit of work down here in the jungle area. We added a small river, and there's just a few little quality of life improvements down there. More hills. Developed this whole forested area up here. Got some world trees going on. This world tree needs to go down a layer. There we go. So it's underneath the grid. And yeah, just a lot of general improvements. So it's been a really productive mapping period today. A lot of good stuff happened. Got to demo a little bit more and talk a little bit more about how this maps works, where distance isn't important, just time, and then of course locations and events. So I will see you all next week when I fire this up again and we continue to develop. And hopefully next week we'll be able to complete the land features and all that sort of good stuff, and then start placing some of the actual locations for adventures and settlements, all that sort of good stuff. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to my supporters on Patreon and Coffee. Thank you very much. You make all this possible. And don't forget to support me on Patreon and Coffee, and like and subscribe here on YouTube. Take care, everyone, and I hope you all have a great day.